Happy Earth Day and aloha. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on Think Tech Hawaii with Stan the Energy Man, which shows each Friday at noon on thinktechhawaii.com. As you'll notice, Stan is not presently here. He's out enjoying the Earth on the continent, and I am here to share this afternoon with you. And we have a guest this afternoon, Robert Kinslow, who will be also sharing this Earth Day with Hawaii and whoever else is watching. Rob, a sustainability advisor and good friend and colleague, former classmate, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm really happy to be here. I appreciate you inviting me on Earth Day 2016.
I know. It just warmed my little sustainability heart.
Did you know that in 4 years it will be the 50th anniversary of Earth Day?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, 1970.
Outstanding. That's pretty amazing that this has been happening that long.
Yeah.
And to think of where we are, particularly here in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, as you know, the first Earth Day was started in 1970 by Gaylord Nelson and a couple other people. And, you know, there was no social media then. Their social media was telegrams and radio and TV. And they didn't have any budget either, but 20 million people joined in on the first Earth Day.
I had no idea it was that many people.
Yeah, you should look back at some of the old pictures of Earth Day. It's very fun to see what they were doing, you know, and what the consciousness was then.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So for today's show, we generally talk a lot about energy and focus there. But because Earth Day involves energy and so many other things, we'd like to broaden the conversation and talk a little bit about sustainability, what that means here in Hawaii, and what that means across the nation and the globe.
Okay.
So if you could tell me a little bit about your background and what brings you to sustainability?
Sure. Well, I would actually have to say that I was embedded in nature from as a young child. I'm the eldest of 11, and I was born and raised on an organic farm. And since we were poor, we had no fences for our animals, so I was the fence. So I would roam around the acreage of our land with the animals, the goats and cows and sheep and pigs, and keep them from going out into the road or onto the neighbor's property. So I was embedded in nature from the very beginning, so I had made a very strong connection with nature. And of course, nature is sustainable because she's been here for 4.5 billion years. So, well, a little bit less than that in terms of nature. The Earth has been here 4.5, but maybe let's say 2 billion years, 2.3 billion.
Fair enough.
About. And then I went off and became an aerospace engineer.
Goodness gracious, from Earth to space.
Yeah. Well, you know, it just shows you the bilateral nature of the human brain. You know, I mean, the young man wanting to explore space. I was also interested in archaeology, but my friends were all in science, and I was very good at science and math, so I went ahead and got a degree in aerospace engineering at University of Maryland. Wow. And then I got a job at Northrop Grumman in California, and I was an aerospace systems engineer for a decade or so. Okay. And then I had some epiphanies and some understandings of myself. I actually founded a land trust in Los Angeles that saved 640 acres on which Steven Spielberg wanted to build his DreamWorks studio. That's a whole very fascinating story because his first movie was Poltergeist, and then it ended up he was actually building on wetlands in Los Angeles later in his life. So lots of karmic implications there. And then I went from that to traveling around the world, and then came to Hawaii and became a wellness practitioner. And then I went back to school with you and at HPU and got a master's in sustainable development. And today I'm a public speaker and an organizational advisor towards sustainability.
Outstanding. So I'm glad that you mentioned when we segued into one another at HPU.
Yeah.
So if we can talk a little bit about how academics play a role in broadening the conversation and kind of raising the awareness of sustainability and what your experience at HPU was in that regard. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, academic organizations have been leading the way towards sustainable culture since the very beginning because, of course, industrialism has strayed so far away from sustainability that we have to rediscover it, so to speak. Yes. And so academic, thinking, inquiry, discovery, all these strategies and things that organizations do, academic organizations do to stimulate students. that naturally would be the place where it would arise again.
see.
So HPU with Dr. Art Watley created this global leadership and sustainable development program. And that program has been very successful over the years. And it has been the foundation for a bunch of people's careers, and HPU in particular has become known as a leader in sustainable development in the Pacific. Did I answer your question?
You did, and then
Okay.
some.
Okay.
No, and you mentioned the careers, and I'm like, case in point.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Exactly.
So proof in the pudding there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do appreciate you also mentioning systems and HPU and, well, not, and we won't hark on HPU for the entire conversation,
No,
but
no, it's
just
okay.
because I have familiarity there.
Sure.
But speaking of academics and academics' role kind of in making sure people are having those conversations, that they're thinking about things and how industry has strayed from it.
Right.
And so now as we're in this place where energy is becoming a more common conversation,
Right.
both within and outside of academia,
Mhm.
and largely because of the technologies that have advanced in industry.
Right.
So as a current law student, it's
Uh-huh.
fascinating for me to kind of learn about the pieces that weren't really paid attention to in times past.
Okay.
And to see how that foundation of fossil fuel energy development,
Okay.
how that's interchanging with this development of renewable energy technology. So when you think about things like that, when we think about how we're changing from systems, what do you see kind of as those rising stars, the spaces where there's real congruence and there's good collaboration and there's a lot of momentum moving forward? Do you see that space in energy or in any other space in sustainability?
I see. Yeah, that's a really good question. We could talk a long time on that. I would have to say that energy, industrialism, sustainable development, there may be common features to them in terms of humans and humans' consciousness and what is possible, but industrialism is wholly separate and fully integrated with neoclassical economics. Sustainable development has a different kind of economics, and a different type of energy source is possible over here. And so the way I see it, we're actually moving from this fossil fuel, energy dense, industrial model to this more sustainable, energy diffuse, but yet human powered mostly.
Yes.
The potential of humans has never been explored in industrialism because we have this upper limit as to where we think humans are, we're just basically all workers in the machine. So that's kind of like, stay there and don't come out of your cave. We don't really want you to participate because there's no potential to move industrialism. Industrialism would like to focus only on profit.
I see.
And so this way of thinking, this approach to doing business has created the world that we now live in, which has so many problems and is what you and I and other people like us are striving to kind of educate and empower and move beyond. And so this is, I think, what keeps us going is this potential for something much greater to emerge.
I see.
Did I answer that question?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
And it was a roundabout question, and a lot of things were thrown in there. So I think you threw a lot of things back, and more
Yeah.
questions are coming.
Okay, good.
So when I think about these very different worlds, if you will, that can coexist,
Yeah.
that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think of things colliding and things being catastrophic as opposed to simply collaborative and simply growing. But I find it fascinating that particularly in energy work,
Yeah.
I like to tease people that there's energy and synergy because there's a great deal of synergy as we do a lot of energy work. So much of the systems can easily connect with one another. So definitely the people and their potential
Yep.
is evidence in the work, but the systems lend themselves well to one another kind of collaborating. And so much of the work that I do in the recent past has been in integrating renewable technologies.
Okay.
And as we look at how generation and storage play with one another,
Okay. Right.
in many ways it reflects the systems kind of base learning that we did at HPU
Right.
from global leadership. And so I know you've traveled a bit, and
Uh-huh.
I'm curious what sort of system collaboration or engagement you've seen in different nations, or just if there's any place that stands out to you as I traveled here and I remember seeing this system interaction and that's unique, or if you've seen something that happened elsewhere replicated here.
I see. Well, I'd have to say that I've been to much of Europe. I've been to Sri Lanka, Korea, the Hawaiian Islands, of course, and Thailand, and many states in the continent. There are pockets of collaboration, pockets of energy development, pockets of sustainable communities emerging. Now, do those things thrive? They haven't yet in terms of the scale. But what we can say about it is that we're moving from, it's always the outliers that create the new paradigm. Okay. It's not the core. Okay. The periphery is always, the core and the periphery kind of always, if you look at cultural anthropology, you see that the core and periphery always swap. And the longer that that tension is held off, the more catastrophic, the more energy is involved in the eventual collapse or the eventual movement together of the core and the periphery. So by that I mean that renewable energy and energy technologies are the periphery, and the core right now is industrialism and fossil fuel rich type of technology. And so right now what we're seeing is that slow and maybe managed, I don't know, the question is, are we going to have a catastrophic merging, or are we going to have a collaborative merging? And we don't know that yet. Right. Because there are forces that are trying to prop up fossil fuel. I mean, reference the recent, Exxon scandal, in which they discovered decades of deception and delusion, manufactured delusion by Exxon. So, but fortunately, Obama's been a decent leader in terms of that, although he's made some, not always consistent decisions. And so we hope that the next generation of people such as yourself and people who are still coming up behind are going to make better decisions, not only about their leaders, but about how they do business together. And so I didn't answer your question because I don't know. There's a lot of tension right now in the world between these two worlds that you spoke of. The world and actually the power that we have, each of us has, is in the choice. And we're not taught that our choice is our greatest power. Our greatest power is choice. Every day we have the power to choose,
the red pill or the blue pill.
It's the matrix, yeah, exactly. But in a way, but we have more power than that, because in the matrix, both pills led to manufactured realities. And in our case, we have a choice with sustainable development to choose one that is human scaled, that is just, that does help and uplift the children of the future and the life that's on this planet with us. So, in my view.
In your view, and it's a good view. Thank you for sharing it. And we'll take a little moment to segue and hope that you will make the choice to join us after this break. Thank you for taking the time.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hittel, and I host a show, Climate Change Beyond Outrage. In it, we go beyond outrage to look at solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. Join me every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. See you then.
Aloha, my name is Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm the host of Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. We air live on the internet and also on Oceanic Channel 16. I'd invite you to come for a fresh new show every Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock. I try to bring on guests that give us a different viewpoint on aspects of sustainability in Hawaii, as well as trying to unpack some of the difficult concepts of measuring and achieving sustainability, particularly with regard to sustainable economic growth and prosperity in Hawaii. Please join us every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. Mahalo, aloha.
Happy Earth Day. Welcome back, and thank you for choosing to stay with us in Stan the Energy Man Lunch Hour Show. Today we're talking with Rob Kinslow, Sustainability Advisor, and we talked a lot about worlds and systems and how they collide or intersect and merge and crash together. Hopefully not crash together, hopefully collaborate together. But I'd like to delve a little bit deeper into those systems, and if you could share a bit about the organizations with whom you've engaged and kind of the work that you've done with the organization, but perhaps what that organization means in a system and in a collaborative effort to sustain whatever the organization is.
Sure. Well, I am a meta view or a broad systems thinker, naturally. And so post HPU, what that's led me into is helping various organizations understand their brand through the lens of sustainability.
Okay.
And many of these organizations have already decided that they want to explore that. So that's helpful because you don't have to convince them they're a willing participant in the journey. For example, last year I was asked to help facilitate a conversation between two competing versions of sustainable development within the UH Maui campus.
Okay.
The chancellor invited myself and Jane Yamashiro over to facilitate this conversation. And so what we had was we had a committee that wanted to build on what was done in the past, and then we had another committee that wanted to actually create a much larger vision. And so these two people, because of their positions, I think couldn't come together without a facilitator. So I helped facilitate a visual solution to that, which ended up being a very elegant solution for the UH Maui campus, which has been designated as the flagship campus for sustainability in the UH system, to discover what just their potential is and how they will start from where they are to get to that potential. And so that's one thing. The second thing that I did last year was very interesting is I was asked to come over to the Big Island and facilitate a strategic conversation for the Kohala Center. And the Kohala Center is an independent think tank that is focused on agriculture, food, and energy. And so we then took them through this process of understanding what their sustainable brand is and how that fits into the local culture and how those two things both intersect and are embedded. And then this year, Matt Lynch over at UH Manoa asked me to come in and help facilitate a conversation between 42 folks on the development of sustainability in the curriculum at UH, which now, because of the recent executive direction and their strategic planning, they have strategic sustainability in the university's plan. They are now taking a serious look at how we're going to implement sustainability in the curriculum. So you see, that's kind of my role with my understanding of systems and with my ability to be a facilitator and a communicator. I'm able to draw organizations and their people into conversations that then converge in a collaborative solution for the particular organization. So those are a couple examples of what I've done. And what I call myself sustainability advisor because I'm not really associated with any one organization. And so I'm able to slip between the cracks of all these personalities and titles and stuff like that and come in as a fresh viewpoint. And since I'm friendly and open and all, people accept me, and then something happens and boom, something else emerges, you know.
And then it's Earth Day, and we're here on a show, and we're talking about sustainability.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. So I hear a few kind of common themes in what you've shared in your experiences over the past few years. And you mentioned, especially with the Maui version, or the Maui experience, bridging kind of a time of the past with a time of the present. And so particularly in Hawaii, I feel like that is a very real, tangible conversation.
I see.
Because we have an opportunity to see readily the foundation that Native Hawaiians have laid here, and we get an opportunity to really have hands-on experience with that indigenous knowledge. But it's also a place that thrives on many new technologies, and it's taking advantage of the existing resources we have here. And so I'm curious if you could speak to your experiences in kind of bridging those type of gaps in such a broad span of years, but in very different culturally I guess, very different cultures that still have some way to coexist here?
Well, it depends on what we're interested in a way. Are we interested in continuing this industrial machine, or are we interested in moving beyond it? And it seems that most people here in the islands are interested in moving beyond it.
I'd agree.
And the indigenous wisdom is the foundation. It's interesting, of course, to see in the frame of cultural anthropology how the core, which was indigenous wisdom here in the islands, became the periphery. And now the periphery is coming back to the core again, because we're realizing that Native Hawaiians and Native peoples all over the world have the answers to sustainability and being sustainable and continuing to value and provide resources for our children. So, the concept of ahupua'a is a systems look at your environment.
Right.
So ahupua'a, of course, for people who don't know, is that we look from the mountains to way out in the ocean. And we say, this is our system, this is our environment. Now, how do we fit within it? How do we work with it so that we get benefit and then we don't damage it and destroy it? And so if we were to take that approach today, given what we got, we'd have to dramatically shift our economic activities from the coastline inward. And it's not clear that tourism would be the machine that would do that, or would be the pathway to do that. And those two, and neither the military either. So we don't have a clear lens to look at sustainability for the islands. We have an incremental approach, which is energy. Let's look at energy. Let's look at food. Let's look at ecotourism. So it's an incremental approach to get somewhere. But the question is, with the exponential forcing functions of climate change and acidification of the oceans and volatility that's occurring in the world today, the question is, are we going to move fast enough to be able to adapt to those quick-moving forces? And the answer's still up in the air. And so is the answer indigenous wisdom? Yes. And so there was a new word coined recently at UH Manoa in their executive leadership discovery, and it was called Ma'o. And Ma'o means to prosper and to have well-being, prosperity and well-being for all. And so that's really where we need to be headed. That's the target we need to head towards. And the question is, how are we going to get there? And we don't know the answer to that yet, because we are just now embarking on this path at an organizational, institutional, governmental level. So, and Einstein famously said, we cannot get to where we're going with the same thinking that got us to the place that we are. Right. So that brings up, how are we going to get there, and who's going to lead us, and are we going to lead? Are the leaders going to lead? We don't know yet. So this is still developing, which makes it such an exciting time to be in Hawaii.
I agree. It is a very exciting time. And it's a time that I think there are wonderful opportunities for those individuals and organizations to really think more collectively. And so the way we do business is changing, and the manner in which we engage with the hierarchy, which in many cases has been a hierarchy. And not so much that these structures are moving because somebody said, we're going to change and do it differently. But I think there's become a broader awareness of a need to listen to people at various stages or places within this scheme that we've kind of set up. So I really appreciate your mention of how industry is changing and how government is changing, and how there's a broader recognition of a need to do something. There's a broader recognition of the urgency that we need to come to a solution. But I also appreciate you mentioning that focus and really harnessing the indigenous wisdom that's here, and recognizing the gem that we have here in Hawaii for what's been able to sustain Hawaiians for a number of years.
Well, for example, an example of such an adaptive process, last year I worked on a program called the Masters of Aloha in Business. And what we were seeking to do with various partners was develop a curriculum for a program, a Masters in Business program at Chaminade that would incorporate and embed Hawaiian, Native Hawaiian, indigenous values into the business program. How do you market with sustainability in mind? How do you have accounting with, how do you count these things with sustainability in mind? So it hasn't actually come to fruition yet, that program, but those kind of things are happening out there.
Right.
I worked also on another project last couple of years on a greenhouse that produces food, water, and energy. People aren't ready for it yet. It's doable. It's state-of-the-art technology. It can be done. Investors still want ROI. They're not looking at what the social value is or whether the innovation aspects of it yet. So people are still, they're caught between two frames. They're caught between the industrial frame, the industrial, and the sustainability lens. You know, they're not, people aren't, there's some dissonance going on between in industry and in government.
Okay. Well, as we broaden our conversation and hope that we encourage people to merge those two lenses, we'll take a break for a little bit, and we'll ask that our audience join us when we return.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from Think Tech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for choosing to be with us this afternoon on Earth Day here on Stan the Energy Man. We've shared time with Robert Kinslow, Sustainability Advisor. Thank you, Rob. And in the past couple of segments, we've talked about a number of things in sustainability. We've talked about systems in a general sense. We've kind of gotten down to the nitty-gritty, spoken about the lens of sustainability and kind of the lens of industrialism, and how those two lenses are foggied now, but we're hoping can find some clarity and hopefully segue one into the other, moving towards sustainability. And so much of your work has been, you mentioned, with some academic institutions as well as community organizations. And so I mentioned to you over the break that what I really like to do on the show is encourage people to engage, but then to provide them an opportunity and kind of a real tangible piece of who and where they can engage if they're interested. So if you could share some of your community work, we would be appreciative.
Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, I have 16 years of community development here in Honolulu, and then I did another 10 years in California. So I've run hundreds of campaigns and self-funded almost every one of them. I figured out that I spent about $150,000 funding all these campaigns because it's hard to go and be the beggar and go ask for funding from people because they often turn you down. So I just self-fund. So I've done that. I've worked in faith groups. I've worked in environmental groups. I've worked in academic organizations. And I've also now over at Chaminade with the Hogan Entrepreneur Program, I'm a mentor in residence and do a sustainable business module for the students every year. So the language of each of those community groups is quite different. And so I have to learn to adapt to each of those groups and talk to them in their own language. And so if I were to just say to people, if you have an interest or a passion in this, to young people, go to your church, create a green team at your church that can educate and empower up through the ranks of the hierarchy to get people to start acting the right way or behaving the right way. If you're in business, start talking about sustainable business. There's business leadership and sustainability is much needed. Business is the largest force on the planet. It needs to be leading this journey towards sustainability. And same with faith. Faith is 85% of people on the planet identify with one faith or another. So between business and faith, we got like almost 100% of people on the planet could be influenced towards sustainability. And that's been really my interest in working in these groups is how do I influence their highest view of themselves towards sustainability, towards this group think towards how we can see the future as viable for our children. And then with academic organizations, I continue to do that because I'm kind of a geek anyway, so I do that.
Aerospace engineer, you think?
Yeah, but I was a systems guy, so I carry that engineering into all of my interactions with people. So if you need a public speaker for sustainability, I'm totally happy to come and do a module or teach a workshop or give a talk. I'm with Forte Speakers Hawaii. You can check me out over there. I write the environment blog over at hawaiireporter.com, and I totally support what Mike Cochler's doing with the environmental calendar, which is kind of bringing us all together. I really feel like as people who have good conscience, we don't celebrate, we don't communicate, and we don't collaborate enough. And if we could celebrate, communicate, and collaborate, then we'd be even more powerful. But it's challenging. We have personalities and we have egos, and the inner work is just as important as the outer work in sustainability. In fact, everything that's out there began in here. So it's so much important for us to begin in here than it is to begin out there. Although it's debatable as to which way you should go.
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly.
No, but celebrate, communicate, and collaborate. That's a great tagline, especially on Earth Day. I would say any day that's a great tagline.
Yeah, and Earth Day, the 50th anniversary Earth Day is coming up in 4 years. And we're going to have a big celebration here in Hawaii. And I'm already working with Bruce Justin Miller, who was one of the he and Gaylord Nelson got together. He ran the Hawaii part of things way back when. So we're already starting to look at the 50th anniversary, and hopefully by then the political landscape and the economic landscape will be starting to move towards this meta view of humans as embedded in nature and part of, and with a viable future for our children.
So you said a few things that stood out to me outside of the great tagline. I think I'm going to start using that. Okay. You mentioned Hawaii Environmental Calendar, and I appreciate you mentioning that because individually, I use the calendar to see what's happening in the community, not only on Earth Day, but just to see what's happening each week. And so that's a great resource for people who want to get engaged, not only with organizations, but causes. And if they just want to learn a bit more, it's a good opportunity to get a smorgasbord view of the things that are available on the island. And it's actually statewide. So I've appreciated seeing things that happen on Maui, like the Maui Energy Conference last month, things that happen on the neighbor islands in a general sense. So it's just a good space for people who are interested in sustainability or just Hawaii's environment in general.
I agree with you. And I mean, it's really important for those sectors of society, business, faith, academics, and government to kind of get together and have a common vision. Yes. And that's what I seek. That's why I seek to go into those networks and influence them, because even though I use a different language, I'm still talking about the same thing.
Yes.
And sustainability. And so faith people they have a natural stewards of the environment. That's part of, I wrote a paper on this in my GLSD, which is another subject. But, in business, sustainable business, it makes money. It's not rocket science, and it's not impossible. It's quite possible, and it's profitable. And so it's very, but there's not much in business. People are our structures, everything is still geared towards focusing on profits only.
People are looking at it, though.
People are starting to look at it.
And I appreciate you mentioning the business and the necessity of businesses to recognize sustainability as a successful business model.
Yes.
So we have a video, actually, and I've not done this on the show before,
Uh-huh.
but we have an opportunity to do something a little different on this special day.
Okay.
So we have a video that talks about some of those emergences in the business sector.
Oh,
so
good.
we'll get a chance to watch it, and our viewers will share with us, and we'll chat about it a little afterwards.
Okay.
Love the convenience, we love our coffee, so we use those cups. Those cups add up. Not that big, but when you put them end to end, they go around the globe 11 times, at least according to the numbers from 2014 when we consumed 9.8 billion with a B of those little tiny cups. It adds up. And here's the bigger problem. Those cups don't break down. They have nowhere to go but the landfill. And in the landfill, along with all these other nasty things, it creates this gas. It's a greenhouse gas, and it's called methane. Methane is way more dangerous, way more potent than the one that everybody talks about as being so bad, which is carbon dioxide. So methane's a lot worse. And the fact of the matter is, landfills are the single largest man-made source of methane gas. Now we have an option to keep that waste from the landfill because Hills Brothers has come out with this compostable pod that we can buy that no longer has to go to the landfill. It can be composted and broken down and go right back into soil to improve the planet. The pod itself is made of a coffee product, like the ring is coffee chaff. That's the toughest part. And so for that to break down in a home composting system, our backyard composting, it takes a lot of high heat for that to really break down. And it's hard to do in a home system. Not that it can't be done, it's just not likely. So the way that these are breaking down is in a commercial facility where they can control those inputs, they can fine-tune them and dial in to get the perfect temperature. The Biodegradable Products Institute has certified that this coffee pod will break down in a commercial composting facility in 100 days or less. That's faster than an orange.
Well, that was enlightening
Yeah.
and encouraging to see
Yeah.
successes and to see new thinking and innovative models in business.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the video?
It's really good to see waste like that now being thought of as food for the next process because nature, as a 2.3 billion year old entity on the planet, has explored many of these processes already.
Yes.
And as what we see out there as nature is the finest of the finest types of processes and products that nature can provide, and we should be mimicking that, not destroying it. We should be looking to nature for solutions, and that's what these guys are doing, is they're looking to nature because in nature there's no waste. Waste is food.
Right.
Waste is food for the next process or the next product. And so this is a very encouraging outcome because these people are actually saying, hey, how can we get our metal Keurig cups out of the, oh, we make them with coffee. Oh, why? Oh, it breaks down. Oh, now we can spread them on the ground and use them as compost. So that's really awesome.
I really appreciate you mentioning the biomimicry piece. That's something that stood out to me in my time in HPU as a bing, I had an epiphany, like, why don't we do it this way? So it is encouraging to see businesses recognize that. And what I really appreciate about in the video is that it's taking something that's very common to us and making sustainability not seem so foreign. I find that sometimes conversationally, you'll speak about sustainability and we'll use terms that we're familiar with in speaking to others who do sustainability.
Right.
But sometimes having those conversations with people who are outside of that work, I think the message can get lost at times, but that is an excellent model of how the message is very clear and how a business is standing up and recognizing a need to do better and is doing better. And we all benefit from it, especially the coffee drinkers.
Yeah.
So,
Hashtag be like nature. You know?
be like nature.
Hashtag be like nature. But I mean, this is very important, and it is. I think the pathway to the new paradigm is biomimicry, because nature's already done that.
Yes.
So let's be like nature, and then of course that would fill into our tagline of celebrate, communicate, collaborate, because we'll be collaborating with nature, not destroying nature.
That is an excellent, excellent way to close this show. We've talked about a number of things, and we have talked specifically about sustainability and systems. We've talked about the nitty-gritty systems. We've talked a bit about how people can engage. And so I hope that people are encouraged to look you up and ask you to come and join their groups and speak with them. But do you have any closing comments or last thoughts for our audience?
Well, I being the eldest of 11 children, I'm the big brother. So when I came into this world, apparently to help my parents raise 10 siblings. So I look around me and I have the big brother complex everywhere, which means I help everybody. I give it away all the time because I want social improvement. I'm very interested in social improvement. So what I would say is, if you're interested in social improvement, if you really want humans to be better than they are, if you really believe that we have a greater potential and that we can have a much more positive influence in the world than we do, then stand up and speak out and be the change that you want to be in the world, because no one else is going to do it but you. And I believe in social improvement. I believe that human potential is the great untapped well of development that will spawn all of these this pathway to sustainable development. And I think we are much more than we think we are. When my brother was dying of cancer at 31, I was in his hospital room. There's a bunch of us in there, and I was standing over by the door, and I was just opening and closing the door for people coming out. And he didn't say much, but he looked over at me at one point and he said, "What are you doing over there?" I said, "Oh, Tim, I'm in the background, just helping people. That's what I do." And he said something that changed my life and set me on this path. He said, "Get out of the background, Rob, and get into the foreground." And what he meant by that, and what I took from that, was that every one of us needs to get out of the background and get into the foreground of the future and be the positive change we want to see.
On that note, I think you left us all with a powerful message,
Yeah.
as well as a powerful incentive to get out of the background and into the foreground. Rob Kinslow, thank you for your time. Audience, thank you for joining us this afternoon with Stan the Energy Man on thinktechhawaii.com. We wish you a very happy Earth Day. Continue to thrive, connect, communicate, and collaborate. Thank you for your time. Aloha.
You're watching Think Tech Hawaii, Hawaii's leading digital media platform for civic engagement, raising public awareness on tech, energy, diversification, and globalism. Great content for Hawaii from Think Tech.